Behind the elegance of the British monarchy lies a maze of real-life secrets that even Netflix never fully revealed. We watched the drama unfold on screen, the heartbreaks, the politics, and the icy silence of the palace. But what was happening behind the real velvet curtains? From the Queen's secret private screenings to the on-set controversies that changed the television industry forever. The true story of the show is often stranger than the fiction it portrayed. Today, we are peeling back the layers. These are the 10 fascinating facts that show the history of the monarchy is far more complex than a script could ever capture. Fact 1. Why was the government not consulted? Because it is a private matter. Officially, Queen Elizabeth II never released a statement about the crown. However, multiple palace insiders have confirmed that Her Majesty was not only aware of the show but actually watched the first season. According to senior staff, it was Prince Edward and his wife, Sophie, who encouraged it. They reportedly held informal viewings at Windsor Castle on Saturday nights. An aide claimed that the Queen found the series beautifully produced, though she did note that events were occasionally too heavily dramatized for her taste. It is a fascinating image, the real Queen watching the fictional Queen. While she never publicly condemned or endorsed it, her silence functioned as a form of royal approval. It was a masterclass in her lifelong motto: never complain, never explain. Watching the dramatization of her own life, she remained exactly as the show portrayed her: reserved, observant, and impossible to read. Fact 2. To play the young Queen, Claire Foy approached the role like a historian. She spent months analyzing rare newsreels from the 1940s and 50s. She worked tirelessly with linguists to replicate the Queen's early accent, which was significantly more clipped and upper-class than the voice we heard in her later years. But it was the physical transformation that was most demanding. Foy slowed her breathing to match royal poise. She learned to move her hands only when absolutely necessary, a reflection of studied restraint. She famously described wearing the heavy replica crown as balancing duty on your skull. Director Stephen Daldry called her performance-controlled vulnerability. Every pause carried weight. Foy didn't just memorize lines. She studied the transcripts of real speeches to match the rhythm of the Queen's breath. It was a performance that redefined historical acting, proving that the loudest emotion often comes from the quietest person in the room. Fact 3. The drama wasn't limited to the script. In 2018, a real-world controversy erupted. Producers admitted during a conference that Matt Smith, who played Prince Philip, earned significantly more than Claire Foy. The reasoning given was Smith's previous fame from Doctor Who. But the public didn't buy it. Fans and critics labeled it the crown pay crisis. How could the actor playing the Queen be paid less than her consort? The backlash was swift. Left Bank Pictures was forced to issue a public apology, promising that in the future, no one earns more than the Queen. Matt Smith even donated part of his salary to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund. It was a turning point for the industry. What began as a contract dispute became a landmark feminist moment, ensuring that by season 3, gender parity was written into every contract. The real Queen stayed silent, but the fictional one changed Hollywood. Fact 4. While the Queen was quietly curious, Prince Philip's attitude was complicated. Friends of the late Duke of Edinburgh said he generally disliked seeing private lives dramatized. In 2017, a close confidant told the Sunday Times that Philip dismissed the show as fiction, not fact. However, he wasn't entirely immune to its craft. Matt Smith actually met Prince Philip at a public dinner. When Smith asked for advice, the Duke was charming but evasive. Yet, biographers noted that the show's portrayal of Philip's restlessness His struggle with giving up his naval career to walk 2 steps behind his wife was historically accurate. For the first time, a younger generation understood the sacrifice Philip made. Even his critics admitted that the series captured his humor and his insecurity authentically. In later years, when asked about the show, Philip reportedly quipped, "They've done worse things to us." A wry acceptance that summed him up perfectly. Fact 5. Here is a secret the palace tried to keep buried. While their official stance was silence, privately, the palace staff was tracking every single episode. Former press secretary Dickie Arbiter revealed that aides kept internal notes comparing the drama to the official record. They fact-checked everything from speech timings to the size of the crowds. They weren't doing this to sue. They were doing it because they feared historical distortions would become the public's permanent memory. Researchers consulted biographies by royal historian Hugo Vickers to separate truth from invention. It was a quiet oversight strategy. But interestingly, even the staff admitted the visuals were alarmingly authentic. They marveled at seeing replicas of private rooms they knew intimately. In a strange way, the palace became a silent audience to its own myth, watching their workplace recreated inch by inch. Fact 6. When it came to portraying the rebellious Princess Margaret, actress Helena Bonham Carter took preparation to a supernatural level. She didn't just read books. She sought permission from the other side. Bonham Carter claimed she contacted Margaret through a psychic medium to ask for her blessing. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the actress treated this as a necessary act of empathy. She collected recordings to capture Margaret's specific cadence, aristocratic, yet jagged. Her preparation involved studying cigarette etiquette and the specific posture of a woman who knows she is being watched. Crew members joked that her dressing room perpetually smelled of smoke and Chanel perfume. Historians noted that the performance captured the true tragedy of Margaret, her battle with depression and loneliness. Bonham Carter later said, "I hope she'd forgive me." And looking at the raw vulnerability of the performance, many who knew the princess believed she would have. Fact 7. Then came the challenge of the century, Princess Diana. When Emma Corrin was cast, she was virtually unknown, tasked with bringing the most beloved woman of the modern era back to life. Corrin spent 6 months perfecting Diana's distinctive head tilt and shy mannerisms. She worked with dialect coaches on breathing patterns, realizing that Diana's voice often carried a breathless quality. But the true test was the wedding dress. Costume designer Amy Roberts recreated the gown using original sketches. Corrin described wearing it as physically overwhelming. When she stepped onto the set in the replica gown, the crew reportedly went silent. It was a ghost walking among them. But Corrin emphasized authenticity over imitation. The show consulted psychologists to ensure the portrayal of Diana's mental health struggles was handled with sensitivity. It was a performance that reminded the world that behind the magazine covers was a young woman facing profound isolation. Fact 8. One of the reasons The Crown felt so real was the production's borderline obsessive attention to detail. This wasn't just a set, it was a simulation. Art directors visited stately homes to copy interiors inch by inch. Furniture was commissioned from the same manufacturers used by Buckingham Palace. Lighting engineers mimicked the specific color temperature of 1950s photography. And yes, even the dogs were method actors. The Queen's corgis on set were trained to respond to commands given in the specific, received pronunciation accent of the upper class. From the Prime Minister's briefing folders having the correct historical seals to the soundstage sets being so accurate that visiting dignitaries felt déjà vu, the production blurred the line between reenactment and reality. It demonstrated that in cinema, Realism is its own kind of magic. Fact 9. But how much of it was true? Creator Peter Morgan has always been clear. This is about emotional truth, not literal accuracy. The writers built massive timelines, linking political milestones with personal ones, debating every episode for months. But they had a rule. They would never create an event that directly contradicted recorded fact. They might condense a timeline, or imagine a private conversation, but the framework was rigid. Morgan famously said, "If history is the body, emotion is the heartbeat." The team deliberately avoided collaborating with the palace to protect their independence. Their process mirrored academic research more than gossip columns. This rigor is exactly why so many viewers mistake the show for a documentary. It feels true because the emotions are real, even if the dialogue is imagined. Fact 10. Finally, we cannot ignore the cultural impact. Since its debut in 2016, The Crown has fundamentally changed how the world sees the British monarchy. Universities now use the show in media and history courses. Google searches for royal biographies surged after every season premiere. Tourism to royal landmarks skyrocketed. For the Windsors, the show was a double-edged sword. It humanized them, generating sympathy for figures like Prince Charles and Princess Margaret. Yet it also reignited Republican sentiments and criticisms of the institution. It reshaped entertainment standards, proving that historical drama could be as gripping as any thriller. For the royal family, The Crown turned their private lives into shared global folklore. It transformed history into a mirror, reflecting our own fascination with power, duty, and the cost of the crown.